watching Suzanne Shaw and Pete Wilson on News Center 4 at 6.
People lined up and even camped out at theaters nationwide tonight, very much like they did 20 years ago. This is the old video.
This is what it looked like at San Francisco's Coronet Theater in 1977, the day the original Star Wars opened. Hundreds of people lined up for blocks to be the first to see the film that changed Hollywood forever. Tonight, this is the scene live outside the same theater, the Coronet. The crowds are back at the Coronet, the same mission in mind. Among them is News Center 4's Vic Lee. Vic.
Yes, well, of course, you remember these characters, Suzanne. This is the way it's been all day, for 3 days, really, here at the Coronet Theater. It is indeed the genius of a man who had a vision 20 years ago, and as you can see from these lines, that genius, that magic still holds true today. That magic, of course, those special effects, those fabulous special effects that changed Hollywood's expectations forever.
Look, Dave. I can see you're really upset about this.
2001, A Space Odyssey was made almost 30 years ago. It created visual effects moviegoers had never seen. 10 years later, George Lucas would push those limits even further.
What George Lucas did with his team of special effects artists in creating Star Wars was to take that kind of an idea and say, what can we do only more so?
To achieve his vision, Lucas hired young, talented animators and computer graphics artists, a group that would later form Lucas's subsidiary, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. Star Wars became a defining event in movie making. It told a good story, and its stunning visual effects jumped off the screen.
Star Wars was designed to be a theatrical experience. It was designed to be on the big screen. Sound is extremely important.
The Force has been with George Lucas since he was young, a force that shaped his filmmaking. Young George, who grew up in Modesto, loved watching KRON-TV's Adventure Theater. Years later, he would use the fast-paced, action-packed style of classics like Flash Gordon to make his movies.
Emperor Hudson, you are the nucleus of everything that's happening.
This was one of Lucas's student films, which he produced while attending USC in the 60s. It was called The Emperor.
He uses a lot of music, a lot of sound effects.
I met his former film professor, David Johnson, in 1985.
Well, George was kind of shy, little wimpy guy that sort of melded into the background until he put his work on the screen. And then he suddenly, it just jumped out that here was a talent, immediately recognizable from his very first film.
His most successful student film was THX 1138, a movie about a futuristic world. Already, you could see the Lucas style of the future.
It's the use of the camera, the use of editing, the unusual angles, lighting, the whole thing.
The whole thing. That's what Lucas wanted in Star Wars when he made it 20 years ago. But he didn't get it.
The original Star Wars was not 100% what Lucas wanted. For one thing, the technology just wasn't there. Today, it is here. Movie by movie, the visual geniuses at ILM revolutionized special effects. Star Wars was just the beginning. Computer graphics supervisor and ILM's resident chronicler, John Burton.
It is technology and it is artistry marching together in lockstep, figuring out ways to create the images that are going to tell the stories that Hollywood's directors and that George Lucas in particular want to tell.
Steven Spielberg's Young Sherlock Holmes was a benchmark for ILM. It created the image of a stained glass man with a sword jumping down from the window and dancing on a befuddled priest.
This was the first time that anyone had really taken this level of computer graphics, animation, an articulated figure who looked real but was doing things which appeared to be impossible.
Another breakthrough was the movie The Abyss.
They were able to take a creature that had real activity and appeared to be a moving, living being within a film world that could take on the characteristics of the actors in the film.
In Terminator 2, ILM created a real moving, interacting creature which played a lead role throughout the movie.
Once we showed that we could do this kind of very strong presence in a film, that we could basically carry the ball in a movie, then the doorway opened for all kinds of things.
But the defining moment for ILM was this epic, Jurassic Park.
We had Steven Spielberg come in and say, "Can you guys do dinosaurs?" And so when we did dinosaurs, then all of Hollywood looked and said, wow, they can do dinosaurs, then they can do anything. And the whole world of filmmaking suddenly opened up to the idea of digital special effects.
Now, George Lucas moves on to the prequels, the 3 chapters preceding the trilogy. For ILM, this may be its greatest challenge yet. May the Force be with ILM always.
Well, people are starting to come in for the 7 o'clock showing. This is what you're seeing now. You know, someone once said that this is not just a movie, this is a reunion. Well, that reunion continues next month when Empire, the special edition, opens up. And then in March, the special edition of Return of the Jedi opens. So that reunion will continue. And of course, the shooting for the prequels begins in September in London. Back to you, Pete, Suzanne.
You know, Vic, the folks who distribute videotape and video discs say that just about everybody owns this doggone movie on videotape at home that has any kind of collection at all.
That's right.
So why the theaters? Why are they out there to see it again?
Well, as Lucas has always said, Star Wars and the trilogy was meant to be seen on the big screen. And that's where you're going to see some of the most subtle changes. You won't see those subtle changes on VHS.
Okay.
Vic Lee reporting live for us from San Francisco's Coronet Theater, where tickets are sold out for tonight.
That's right. Yeah, in the Wired magazine this month, there's a big interview with Lucas in which he says the new trilogy, which they're working on, it's in production, will revolutionize filmmaking. And you're going, now that's a scary thought. Yeah.